Hello chess fans, this is Craig Marr bringing you another edition of the stories behind the games. Now today I'm going to talk about the great Roman Dzindishkashvilli. Now I think he's still alive, living somewhere in the United States. But, back in the 1980s, he was a big player in the United States. In fact, one of the leading grandmasters said that in the 1980s, Roman was unofficially the best player in the U.S. And I was very fortunate to travel over to Philadelphia in 1979. And I saw Roman for the first time playing. He was a lot younger then, in his 30s, in his prime. And, Roman was originally from Russia, and I think he got kicked out of there by the Federation for undisclosed reasons. Maybe a rogue like him didn't really belong in this, super uptight environment, because, he always had kind of a big, free-spirited personality, and, he was built like a wrestler, very husky, and, but anyway, back in the, 1979, this was a superstar that I only really had heard about and read about. I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd ever get to play this great player and analyze with this great player. And you'll see Roman at the end of the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer, and he's there at the end of the movie, but only briefly. But anyway, since that time, maybe in the last 10 or 20 years, Roman has made his opening videos. And as a stronger player, okay, I kind of appreciate those, but I would really appreciate seeing more of Roman's other skills, like middle game and end game, more. That's what, I would like to see more of. But I don't know if he's producing any more videos. But anyway, these are great videos you can see on YouTube. Roman, when he was in his younger days, he kind of led a free and undisciplined life full of gambling, drinking, smoking, and carousing. I'm, not going to lie to you guys. This guy led a very active, some would say a little bit non-conforming lifestyle. He liked to gamble, and he would borrow money sometimes to pay for the gambling. So you'd see his creditors, people that he owed money to, lining up at the ending ceremonies to big tournaments where Roman had won money. You'd see his creditors there lining up. But anyway, I spent some time hanging around with Roman. He loved chess. It was like an addiction, the way smoking is an addiction to many. One time I see him sitting there and he goes, I gotta play blitz. It's almost like, hey, I gotta need my fix or something. The man was addicted to the game. Some of the greatest times that I spent were hanging around the Skittles rooms between rounds, just watching the masters hustle. And in New York was made perfectly for Gingy, because you had hustlers all over the place. He was just one of many, He'd play anybody for any amount of money, basically. You'd see Roman in these Skittles rooms or recreational rooms playing cards, poker, backgammon, chess. I'll never forget one of the greatest times for me was 1987, where I played in the New York Open. Now back then, I was a little disappointed because they had a titled player section. You had to be like 2,400 or above to play all these great players. You had people like Boris Spassky, Walter Brown, Gingy, Polgaevsky, Bent Larson, Yasser Seirawan. You had all these great players. But unfortunately, my FIDE rating was like about 20 points short. You had to be 2,400 FIDE. So I just missed the cut. And you also get a free entry into that tournament. But so I had to play in the Masters section, So anyway, I remember Roman. He'd always be hustling people, and then the people that he would beat, he tried to be nice to his regular customers. But I remember the rich people would be just lining up to play Roman and lose their money to him. They were masochists, I really think, But I would frequently see Gingy give Masters and International Masters time odds. 5-3, 3-1. And generally you had no chance, at those time odds. He was just too good. But you were paying for your lessons, you can kind of justify that. And, many times I would see my friends who were international masters just get killed by Roman. And I would have friends that were strong blitz A players or experts, and Roman would easily crush them 5-1. But anyway, in 1989 at the big San Mateo action tournament, I played Gingy in the regular tournament in round 4, and then I was a bit surprised, but not totally surprised, when he challenged me to play for money. He says, "Hey, you want to play for money?" And of course I refused, just scared to death of the guy. But in reality, that would have been, a very good experience for me to lose money to a much stronger player. But now when Gingy would run out of customers, he would end up challenging masters. And then the masters would look at Gingy, and then they'd ask for incredible odds. Okay, give me 5-1, Look at how strong you are. And then Gingy, because he was kind of running out of people to hustle, would often take on incredible odds against strong players. But if you were anything but a titled player, the guy would just murder you even at 5-1. But anyway, in 1989, in this tournament, I was having a terrific tournament. This would turn out to be the tournament of my life. I win in round 1, I win in round 2, I win in round 3. I'm 3-0. And in round 4, guess what? I go to the top of the pairing charts, and I get to play the great Roman Dzindishkashvilli for the first and only time in my life. I would only get one chance. And after the game, Roman was gracious enough to want to go over the game with me. And so I was just thrilled by that. And the crowd surrounded the board in the post-mortem. It was a spectator's delight. Roman had a style similar to Petrosian's or Karpov's, but rather not that close to Fischer or Kasparov. He loved positional play. When you go over a game with a world-class player, you'll learn more probably from the post-mortem than you will from the game itself. And here's the game. I had white. This was in round 4. Roman at the time was rated 2660 US rating, and probably around 100 points lower FIDE rating. Anyway, so you're probably wondering, okay, I'm playing the superstar. Now should I play, not to lose, or should I play to win? And the key is, if you want to get a draw with a superstar, play aggressively to win and don't play to avoid losing. That just is not a good thing to do. So I went out and played very aggressively, e4. Normally I'm a d4 player, but because Roman is a d4 player, he probably doesn't feel as comfortable against the king's pawn. Caro Kann is typical Roman. He's a solid player, but he doesn't like kind of wild positions like you get in the Dragon and the Najdorf, where there's too much book. So he was a player that, above all, plays very solidly in the opening. So this is the most modern attack against the Caro Kann, and it's probably the best. But back then, the Panov-Botvinnik attack was considered the sharpest here. Now I was a little bit surprised by Roman's choice of e6. Now the two book moves besides e6 are knight c6 and g6, which I think are, this leads to a kind of a Grunfeld, and I think this is a very good way to face this system. But this is typical of Roman, a very solid move. Now the move that I've played here doesn't lead to any particular advantage. It's kind of weak, actually. I think bishop g5 is probably better, is sharper. Now you're wondering how come he doesn't take with a knight, but that would lead to well-known positions. So this is probably one of the better ways to play. This kind of a lemon because I'm trading off my good bishop for his kind of bad bishop. Now black's knight is a little bit misplaced. And it looks to me that white does not have any particular advantage in this position. So both sides are doing the right thing, that's castling to get the king into safety. And now I'm trying to get some initiative going. And now Roman plays a very good move, trying to trade off pieces. Again, you got to play aggressively when you're playing a superstar. So Roman does a very smart thing. He just starts trading off. Now this knight is under attack, so I strengthen it. That pawn is under attack, so it plays b6. Now this is kind of a good waiting move. Sometimes you got to create left. Left means air. You're creating air for your king just in case there's a back rank mate. This is a backward pawn on an open file. So it's a weakness, so this pawn is kind of weak. So it's good to put pressure on that thing. I simply guard it, and maybe at some point I like to play c4 and get rid of the weakness. Now it's sort of unclear which way I should take. And I played a good move. I took with a pawn. Now it's always good to advance pawns instead of just automatically capturing with the bishop, because now this pawn's weak and isolated. Now we're heading for a position that is relatively equal, because if I take this pawn, he's going to play knight takes pawn, and that just is going to lead to equality. Notice that my queenside pawns are inferior to black's queenside pawns, so right now it's about an even game. Now we're heading toward a kind of a wide open game. The bishop is good in a wide open game. But if I start trading down, I'm going to be left with this isolated pawn. So I decided to kind of make a waiting move and keep the bishop, which potentially has more value than the knight. So I would have to say that this has been going well for white so far. Roman does not want to get back ranked because the rooks are on the board, so he wisely creates air for his king. This is good.